Hello, this is a recording of a live session from Spark 2021. We hope you enjoy it.
Hello and welcome to Spark 2021. We're here on our third session of the day, Business Benefits of Future Digital Connectivity, hosted by Coventry University. And the Director of Innovation, Paul Fairburn, is going to take us through a half-hour presentation before we break out into virtual meetup discussion rooms. So if you're a business looking to create new digital products and services, or if you're interested in learning about the future of connectivity, including 5G, then this is the session for you. Thank you, and over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Bronwyn, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Future Connectivity session. We wanted to share with you the details of an exciting new project that we're launching in spring of this year. Effectively, it's a £3.8 million programme designed to support small businesses, SMEs in Coventry and Warwickshire. So really appreciate you joining us today. The whole purpose of the project is to effectively support the take-up or acceleration of digital adoption within small businesses, and particularly the uptake of 5G, which is a really exciting future market. And will be very much focused, the project itself, on the development of new products and services. So we've taken a slightly unusual step today of promoting the project at an early stage, because we actually wanted to use this session to stimulate a bit of discussion. So if you're feeling brave, we'd like to hear from you and get a bit of feedback from the audience that's joined us. So really, we want to hear back from businesses to make sure we're pitching this correctly and we're addressing a real need in the market. And the intention that we fully intend is to use the feedback from today and continually to inform the programs that we're looking to provide through the project. So really, just to make sure that we're focusing on the right things. So I have a short slide deck that I was going to share with you today, but just to start by effectively thanking our funders and partners who are listed at the top of the slide there. They're the ones who've made this project possible. And as Bronwyn has said, what our plan is to give you an overview of the project itself today, and then you'll get the opportunity to ask questions in the open forum, and then we'll be splitting out into some virtual meets that you can join with colleagues from my team. So just to firstly give you an overview of the project, as I've said, it's a £3.8 million programme, contracts now approved, and the idea is to establish a digital connectivity demonstrator in the region. It's funded by the European Regional Development Fund, and the project started in November, so we've been busy over the last 2 or 3 months putting all the relevant planning in place, initiating the project. It'll run through till June 2023. And our ambition is to support 230 small businesses around increased adoption and development of digital products and services. As I said, we do have a focus on 5G, but we're very interested in talking to businesses who have other ideas around products linked to 4G, Wi-Fi and other infrastructure. And the idea is to help businesses grow, benefit from mobile wireless comms, and give space to test and demonstrate your ideas. So I'll come back to the demonstrator a little bit later in the presentation, but essentially we're looking at 3 distinct strands of activity through the project, which hopefully you can see there. The first is around stimulating innovation, generating innovation, so helping businesses to develop those new products and services. We do have a sector focus for the project, which is aligned with some of the strengths that we obviously see in Coventry and Warwickshire. So that's mobility and transport, digital creative cultural organisations, advanced manufacturing, and health and well-being. But we are interested in talking to businesses who may not be operating in those sectors but have some interesting ideas. Second stage is helping those businesses commercialise innovation, so take the products to market. And then finally, we have a responsibility around knowledge sharing and outreach and engagement with businesses who are going, I never like the word, but on that digital adoption journey. So maybe building towards products which would make use of future 5G infrastructure. There'll be a series of programs designed to help you on that journey. So what I wanted to do is really to share with you some ideas as of the types of profile of business that we'd be looking to engage with. Now, this isn't an exhaustive list. We've just picked 3 profiles that we think are the types of organisations that we would be working with on the project. The first may be a startup business with 12 months trading. They may have a single really exciting or disruptive 5G product or service idea. They might have a really amazing pipeline of other innovative ideas and concepts that they're looking to bring through to market. A lot of technology expertise, but maybe less commercial experience or business experience. So they could be interested in mentoring, finance, funding and investment, maybe licensing opportunities, reaching out to new customers and markets. The second profile we've considered is perhaps the more traditional SME, where there is a lot of sector-based knowledge, experience and capability within the business, but perhaps less knowledge of 5G market opportunities and maybe limited digital experience within the business, but a recognition that markets are changing and there's an opportunity to transform some of the activities within that business by increasing digital activities. So it might be about upskilling the workforce. It could be about innovating around new products, building strategy, and helping that business grow. And then finally, for the third of the 3 profiles, we also have our technology SME. Forgive the descriptions, that these were just helpful in terms of building the profiles, but hopefully you get a sense of as where we're thinking. But this might be a business that's very technically capable in that digital space, in that 5G space. They've identified a market. They've got a new product or service in the early stages of development and really now are looking to test that product, do some market evaluation. And there's opportunities there for secondments of staff, again, interested in finance, new customers, recruiting graduates, you know, all of those considerations for that particular business. So hopefully that's given you an initial flavour of the types of organisations that we would be looking to work with. And again, just to stress, it's not limited to just ideas that we're building at this stage. So what we've done is effectively use that information to build a series of programs or support programs for SMEs as part of the project that which we'll be running throughout the 2.5 year period. You can see them listed here, and I'm going to talk about 3 of them in a little bit more detail just to give you a flavour again of the ideas that we've had. But I also would suggest, if you need to know more detail, please join the virtual meets at the end of the session, where my colleagues Claire and Deepak will be, which we can point them out to you at the end of the session, but they'll be waiting to take your questions. So I'll cover the first 3, but we're also looking at potentially running some dedicated or targeted programs in the north and south of Coventry and Warwickshire, perhaps in Leamington or in Nuneaton, to capture some of the businesses in those areas, because there is a Coventry focus, I guess, for the project because of where we're based at the university, but we're very keen to be talking to companies right across the region. So I'll pick the startup mentoring program first. And effectively, this is about supporting these startup businesses around transformation and growth. So we'll be doing our initial assessments and starting to recruit in spring of this year. Obviously working through suitability for the project and the eligibility, but we'll be establishing some taster sessions to start with, so people can come and learn and find out a little bit more about the programme. We would then work through a startup strategy or plan for the next 12-18 months for that business, pair them with the relevant mentor, and then run a series of hourly mentoring sessions over the course of 12, 18 months to suit. But most importantly for us as well is the evaluation and feedback, which will be continuous, making sure that the businesses are getting the support that they need, but also referring them on to other programs, either within this project or in other projects with our partners right across the region. So that's the startup mentoring program. The second, and my apologies for the density of this slide, but you should get a little bit of sense of the journey through our workshops. So we've done quite a lot of thinking about the workshops and the different technical abilities and capabilities that we're likely to see in the businesses that we'll be working with. So we need to be covering quite a broad range of topics. But again, probably looking to start this and launch it in late spring, early summer of this year. We'll go through a pre-assessment process. But most importantly, I guess for today, what we're looking at is really to deliver these workshops over a 2-day period, split into 4 blocks, which adds up to 12 hours worth of experience and learning. But again, the post-program evaluation is key, making sure that those businesses are connected to the other activities in terms of use of the demonstrator, perhaps some more advanced training that's needed, our proof of concept project, which I'll come on to, and of course the startup mentoring program, again, if that's relevant at that point. Just going into a little bit more detail about the workshop itself, we've effectively looked at a journey, taking those businesses from learning about the transformative effect of mobile networks in the early stages and how they can be applied within a business context, but importantly, making that transition through to mobile tech and 5G. Where can 5G really help in terms of developing those new products and services? But equally, from a practical perspective, rather than this just being about an information giving session, we want to be working with those companies to help them develop those new ideas at this stage in the workshop process. So running some ideation sessions or innovation sessions to help generate those new ideas before going on to talk about the commercial opportunities, perhaps making referrals and looking at next steps. I think what we will be doing is running this program a number of times over the course of the next couple of years, and they'll be promoted heavily across the region, of course. So if you're not part of the first cohort, there'll be opportunities to join again in the future, and I'm sure we'll be continuing to refine the content based on the feedback that we'll be collecting from each of the participants. And then finally, from a program perspective, is really just to talk about the proof of concept program. So this is effectively a grant funding program where we will be providing a grant of around £10,000 to each SME to support the development of new 5G products and services. They can be new to the company or new to the sector. We'll be looking for match funding from the SME. It will be a competitive process, and we may run some challenges that are linked to particular sectors, the ones that I alluded to earlier around transport, digital creative, manufacturing and healthcare. But again, if businesses have some really interesting ideas that have real commercial potential, we'll obviously be looking at those to run them through the program. Again, we'll be looking to launch this in late spring, summer of this year, and then look forward to receiving applications. So, just finally, for the next 5 or 10 minutes or so, I was going to describe the actual demonstrator itself. So in addition to the programs that we're looking to run, we've also been planning to invest in a physical facility where we'll have that 5G capabilities to allow businesses to come and test and develop their products in this new and exciting space. So the space that we've identified is actually on our technology park in Coventry. It's about 150 metres squared space, and we're planning to include obviously state-of-the-art 5G comms and infrastructure there. We're looking to put in co-working and collaboration spaces, maybe some technical development areas or demonstration areas for the 5G technologies. And through the position, I guess, of the space itself on the technology park is to provide access to conference and meeting rooms. And it's an interesting situation, of course, at the moment because of the current climate, the environment around COVID. So we've done a lot of thinking as well about how we can provide access to this capability, both from a physical sense, anticipating that we'll be returning on site over the next few months, but also virtual access to the facilities as well, clearly making use of the technology. We are talking to partners about co-locating other activities across Coventry, Warwickshire in other business locations, but the whole purpose is to attract exciting innovators to come into that and use that space, give access to specialist technical R&D resources that other partners and ourselves will provide, support with product development, reference back to the events and other professional services that we can provide, through the university. And again, I was keen to stress that effectively although this will be the physical demonstrator on the technology park, we want to make use of the kind of wider 5G ecosystem that's out there already, both within the university and across the region. So actually, as an organisation, we've invested quite heavily in 5G. So we already have 5G configured spaces in our health and life science building, in our transport design centre, and also in our library. So you can imagine companies with a specific interest in the healthcare market, or mobility, transport, or perhaps EdTech. Those are ideal locations and spaces to allow companies to come in and test those products in a live environment. But equally, we have the partners based further afield. So we've got access to the business lounge, Vodafone Business Lounge at the Ricoh Arena, partners with the county and city and county councils in Leamington, Nuneaton, across Warwickshire, and a relationship with Hariba Maya, which gives us access to their high-speed autonomous vehicle test track, where they're also developing 5G infrastructure support. So really, it's just to say this is not an isolated project. There's a real intention to kind of build those relevant links with other partners across the region to give best access to the businesses looking to come and make use of the facilities. And then finally, on the demonstration space, you can see how far we are here in terms of our thinking, but essentially we've recognised that it needs to be different. It needs to be a vibrant space. We want it to be fully utilised. It needs to be sustainable. So we need to build in some flexibility. This is the location on our technology park where we're planning to put the demonstrator. And again, we're giving very careful consideration to health and well-being of attendees, how we make use of smart tech within that environment, but also recognising that the businesses that we're working with will perhaps want to have access to the space, but able to connect with others, perhaps back at the main office. So have some blended working opportunities where some people may be in the office, some may be remote, some may be working through the demonstrator facility. So we're looking at all of those combinations and how we can combine those to make it the most effective use of space. And then just finally, last couple of slides really, thinking about some of the challenges that we are tackling around the 5G infrastructure itself. I think, as I mentioned earlier, we want to make sure that what we put in place on the technology park supports the wide range of technical capabilities that will sit within the businesses that we work with. We're also keen and want to make sure that we're going to be supporting multiple sectors and multiple applications. So to have that flexibility within the infrastructure is going to be key. And as I said earlier, we need that safe physical and virtual access to the facility, which is part of the thinking about how we put the infrastructure in place. And maybe one of the more challenging areas is a recognition that 5G itself, although there's been a huge amount of talk about it, obviously over the last 18 months, the standards are still being developed and ratified. It's rapidly coming to market. but the full systems are not yet fully available in public space, although the rollout is taking place at the moment. So it's bearing in mind, I guess, how quickly companies want to go to market with these solutions, whilst also making best use of cutting edge technology. And then lastly, for us, really is the consideration of the type of 5G network that we want to put in place within the facility. We have options around public and private networks. So public, there are the obvious benefits for giving companies the ability to test things in a live environment. With private, we have much more control of the network. It's much more secure. So if you're working on sensitive products or sensitive data and information at an early stage, at a development stage, it's more suitable to be working within a private network space. It's configurable, and you can make use of cutting edge technology such as edge computing as well. And then we have a kind of debate and discussion around using hybrid 4G, 5G or non-standalone 5G versus standalone 5G. Standalone 5G is the kind of bleeding edge solution, still in development, but a recognition that that's perhaps where we want to be in terms of future products and services. But that's making sure that what we produce for those businesses and the support is relevant for the appropriate market. The true 5G or standalone 5G gives you the faster speeds, gives you the capabilities and feature proofing. But if we go with a hybrid option, technology and devices are already available and can be used on public networks. With the 5G, we'll have to introduce something more special or specific, which will come to future markets, but that's the plan. So I realise I have rattled through a huge amount of information there. I hope that's given you a sense of what we're planning to do with the project. So thank you for listening during your lunch hour.